listeners and viewers, to another week of Deducation, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back to cover your pick this week. It was your movie to pick, and after a long and lengthy process of discussing 4 different ones at the end of last episode, we settled on the 2004 American remake of a Japanese classic, The Grudge.
Yes.
Directed by the actual director of the original Grudge movie, so there's some continuity there. But yes, starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
You got Clea Duvall. You have William Mapother, which is Tom Cruise's cousin. Bill Pullman has a part. But yeah, you got a bunch of people here. Some you may recognize, most you won't. A lot of Japanese talent as well. But yeah, we got The Grudge. The Grudge. A movie. I remember when this came out as a remake. I had said before, I had a big fan of the original. One of the very few films that actually scared me upon watching the first time. I bought a bootleg version on eBay because I was so hyped up. And I think I made it 10, 15 minutes into the movie before it really got me unsettled. Just the sound of the movie and just some of the visuals were like, oh, this is just uncomfortable to watch. It wasn't gory. It was just spooky. Just a spooky movie. And so there was this rush in the early 2000s of like, hey, these Japanese horror films are a hit. Let's remake them in America. And so this being one of them, but also one of the only ones that actually left the setting in Japan instead of bringing everything over to the United States. So that's where we're at, but it's your movie. So what is this motion picture about, Courtney?
Yeah. So the beginning, it starts off, I'm going to read this little quote that it says, because it says like the grudge is a curse born when someone dies in extreme rage or sorrow and lingers where the person dies. So that I feel like kind of like back explains.
Yeah, it kind of gives away what the movie's going to be about.
Yeah.
It's the theme of the film.
Yes.
You know, it's what it's about without any other plot details. You're like, okay. I see where this is going, which definitely helps because this movie does not play out chronologically. It's very like non-linear, and you'll see some characters here and then they disappear and they'll show up 45 minutes later, and they don't do a real good job of segueing timelines. So everything blurs together. Like, are these people, do they know each other? And then we fill in the blanks, but it's about that.
And this is my brain right now because I cut you off pre-show. So are we going like movie?
I think we should talk about this movie chronologically because all the events happen. Okay. They all happen, but they just happen out of order, which makes the plot kind of hard to follow because they introduce a character and then they jump over to some new characters that have nothing to do with the original characters. Long story short, this movie centers around a house and the things that happen in the house.
Correct. And yeah, like the small family that lives in the home. Kayako, she is in love with her professor.
Yeah, she's a young housewife.
We've all been there. We've all been in love with a teacher.
I know you have. I'm not the teacher, folks.
No,
not at all. I am was your teacher, but not the teacher.
Yeah, nope. And so, and like we're being serious, just for listeners.
Yes, we are.
You might think we're being sarcastic,
but we're also we also need to disclaim here: it never went anywhere. This was just this was a high school girl's infatuation with a teacher that teacher knows nothing about. To my knowledge, anyway.
He did find out my senior year.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, because someone told
him. But
it
was just a teacher you found very cute. Yes. But you also didn't overstep any boundaries of professionalism.
No, I died of embarrassment on the inside when he did find out. Yeah. So anywho, Kayako is in love with her professor, Peter, and she's like writing him all of these love letters, but she's not like giving them to
No,
him.
she's just expressing her
Yeah.
emotions. It's basically she's daydreaming about this guy and journaling it.
Yes. And so then her husband finds out.
Yeah.
And he finds all these journals, and to him, like, he's like, oh my goodness, like, my wife is cheating on me.
Which she's not.
Right, she's not, but to assume that he's not in the wrong,
no,
I guess.
No, when you're finding all these love letters to a man, that isn't you.
Yeah, and like writing like Kayako Kirk, which is his
I know,
last name. Like, it was just very junior
I was
high.
going to say that. It's very funny that she's like a housewife with a child and taking college courses and is like doodling on her notebook covers.
Yeah. And so he is ticked, to say the least.
Maybe a little more.
Yeah, and he kills her. Like, and it's not just like a little kill. Like, it is like, I'm going to drag her.
Yeah.
First of all, he like hulks out.
Yeah.
Like,
rage will do that to a person.
Yeah. And he drags her down the hallway by her hair, and the little boy is watching.
Toshio, their son, Toshio.
Which is just sickening. And like snaps mom's neck in half, snaps mom's neck, kills her, continues to drag her, shoves her up in the attic, and then the black cat they have like drowns and throws the black cat.
Yeah, kills the cat, kills the mom.
Yeah, and then like drowns the little boy, but it never truly showed him like dying.
Well, I think
which I get
that's a Hollywood choice.
Yeah. But it's just like he left him there in the bathtub, and then it's like he just didn't have enough strength to make it.
Yeah, but yes, he essentially killed his wife, child, and cat.
Yes, and so he hides the bodies, and that's that's the end of that.
Well, kinda
segment, kind of right there, because
he hides them. He hides the bodies in the house, but like immediately her ghost comes to seek revenge and hangs him with her hair.
Yes.
As Toshio's ghost is sitting at the feet of his father and just like swinging him,
shoving it back and
forth with the cat sitting there. And keep in mind, like we said, none of this is happening linearly. So all the events that you just spoke about happen in like the second half of the movie, where we are where we are. The movie is introducing us to the events of the haunted house. And the rage, the grudge that you'd mentioned earlier, taking place in the house from the ghosted family, without us knowing what happened to the family. So, again, I know not that people jump in 8 minutes late into a podcast, but just if you've seen this movie, you're like, that didn't happen right away. It didn't happen right away. We're going out of order.
Right.
We're playing out the chronology of this so that if you're listening and you haven't seen it, because trust me, This is well. Early in my teaching career, I was teaching Julius Caesar by Shakespeare to a bunch of 8th graders, and it was all like Shakespearean language. And I made an executive decision early on because it was Shakespeare's hard. Shakespeare is doubly hard for an 8th grader. So what I opted to do was, I'm like, you know what? These kids are trying to understand the language and then understand the plot. So what I did was I opted, every day I would come in and I would give everybody a copy of like the Cliff Notes for what we were going to be reading that day. So they could read the plot, understand what was going on. So then when they were confronted with the language, they at least knew what they were trying to say and could kind of piece it together. Yes. That's kind of what we're doing here. Because if you go into this movie, you're going to be confused.
Yes.
Even if you go into the original, you're going to be confused because nothing happens linearly. And so there's events happening that you don't understand why they're happening. Then later on, you see why they're happening, but you don't realize that's what you're watching because a lot of these actors and actresses they all look very similar. And so it's really hard to tell, is that person the original housekeeper, or is that person the wife, or it's tough. So we're
Yeah.
kind of a little bit back and forth, but yeah, that's the backstory of Kayako, Toshio, and the cat, and the jealous
Yes.
husband that murdered them all and then was killed. Um, and so finish up with how Peter's involved with this.
Yeah, so Kayako actually did mail a letter
Yeah.
to Peter. And so when he got it, he went to the house to visit. And so he like walks up, no one's there. Finally, Toshio like meets him at the window, but doesn't meet him at the same time because he's a ghost. And so he heads on in and finds the corpse
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
And of Kayako and Toshio. And of course he's horrified, runs out, and then it's like the next day he jumps off of like his building, which is, I mean,
he's living well
thousands of feet in the air.
Well,
yeah,
hundreds of feet maybe.
Hundreds, yeah. Like 8 stories,
Yeah.
6 or 8 stories.
Far enough that it should kill him. Honestly,
Yeah.
it should have killed him with more of a splat than it did.
Yeah.
That bothered me.
He just kind of thumped.
Yeah, because it was creepy. His wife wakes up and she's like, "What's going on?" And he's just standing out over the balcony, and then just leans forward. We see him go head first.
And it wasn't like a Michael Jackson lean. Like he like folded himself over and then just tumbled.
Yeah.
Like,
and then we hear, we don't see him fall, but then we see her view as he's laying there, and I'm like, he would have busted. He should have. Now, granted, I've never fallen nor seen anyone fall, but I would think one would have more of an impact than just, I have a little blood coming out of my head. Oh, well.
Yeah. So that all happened in 2001.
Yeah.
Now, flash forward to 2004. And we've got the nice American Williams family moving in.
Yeah.
And they moved here for the husband's job.
Right.
He loves the house.
His wife, not so much.
And his mom.
Yeah.
Who has dementia, like you can tell like his wife and mom definitely feel just like uncomfortable and
because like the wife, and this is understandably so, the husband is, like you said, moved there for work purposes. She's obviously the tag along, so he's gonna have something to do in Japan. She doesn't, and so there's actually an excellent Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson movie called Lost in Translation that kind of deals with the same thing, where she's in Tokyo as a wife and is just lonely because of the culture shock and the lack of language. And then she crosses paths with Bill Murray, who's over there. He's a celebrity, but he's kind of a washed up celebrity. So he's also over there kind of the same reason. So they just kind of bond this friendship, and it's a really like touching movie. It's a really, really great movie. But that helps me kind of understand where his wife Jennifer's coming from. Is I'm over here to support you, but really I'm alone. Yeah. And the dementia mom she's just got vibes. Like she doesn't say a word the entire film, but you could tell that she knows something's off.
Yeah, like I think she did say like 4 words, like tell her to
something
go
like
or
that,
something, like just, but nothing.
Right.
She doesn't hold conversation.
Right.
And it's wild being in a foreign country and knowing nothing.
And you would know,
so crazy. So the curse, the grudge, the curse quickly starts to take over all of these people. Like Matt and his wife are starting to be taken over, and
his sister is also there.
Susan, she starts to be taken over. It's wild. Like, I don't know. I find it kind of weird. Like, you're all just in Japan. Why? Like, I get the family, but like your sister's also there. I don't know.
Gotta have a body count.
So Matt and Jennifer, I remember she was like helping the mom. Yeah. And that's when the mom said those like 4 words, like tell her to go or something. Like leave me alone. And she like looks back and you can see from the background the Grudge's hair, like Kayako's hair just coming out of the
Yeah.
walls in the corner. And the wife, Jennifer, like just heads upstairs to the room where the bodies are.
Yeah.
And is kind of just like seizing / choking. So Matt heads up to check on her, and the cat comes
Yeah,
along.
and when you see the cat, you know Toshio's coming. And I really enjoy this about these films is like we know as an audience, the characters obviously don't know, but you're introduced to the cat, which really, okay, there's a cat in your house. That's not so alarming.
Right.
It's off-putting because it's not your cat, but it's like, oh well. But then the little boy's there. Well, now there's trouble because
now it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but again, you're still not spooked.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is weird. Even though the boy's clearly like in white paint with black eyeliner. It's like he's a ghost, but it's not like he's all like mangled and gross or covered in a sheet. It's just a representation of the spirit. But I do like it because when you see the cat, you're like, oh no, it's coming for them. They have no clue, of course. They're still trying to help the cat. They're trying to help the kid. But by the time you get to the kid, it's too late.
Exactly. And so Matt looks in the closet, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because the boy had like kind of, the sound, and he like fell backwards and was like sucked up in the closet.
Yeah, Kyoko, like mom's mad. Like
yes. So there goes Matt and Jennifer.
Right.
That's the end of them. So sister, Susan has since called, like, I'm worried about mom, how's she doing? And she gets she's at work, she gets kind of this freaky, like, feels like someone's following her type thing, watches the cameras, something she sees come out, you got the black hair, that.
Right.
So she goes home because she's safe in her apartment.
Yeah. No, she's not. Which I do have a slight problem with this part because this is the only time in the movie where the Grudge leaves the home.
This is also the only time in the movie where the Grudge like shapeshifted.
Right.
And I also just think that's kind of weird. Like, you didn't do it in
it's time. Like, if you're like, set the ground rules. Like, for the movie universe, what can and can't this entity do, and then stick to it.
Yes, because she gets home, she gets a phone call. It's Matt, who we know as viewers, he's dead. But Susan doesn't know yet. No. And so he's like, hey, I'm downstairs. What number is yours again? And she's like, oh, here, come on up. And a knock, she looks out the thing. There's Matt standing there. She opens it, frustrated because he hasn't been answering the call. And he's gone. Phone starts making the Grudge noise again. She heads into her bed, which is everyone's safe spot, and covers up. And this is where I'm like, I don't know when this came out. I was in like 6th grade. This was the scariest movie ever.
Heck yeah.
Like, I remember watching it with like 10 other girls that were like, and I was like, could not sleep under the blankets for weeks. Like, I'm like, oh, heck no. Like, But she's laying in bed and you kind of see the bottom of the blankets like bubbling up. And then for whatever reason, she lifts up to look under them, and there's Kyoko.
Yep.
And just sucks her underneath the blanket, and she's
and
gone.
There are a few classic images from this movie. That's one of them, coming up between your body and the blanket, like, because that's like you said. I'm covered up. I'm good. Yeah. I'm ending. Yes. I'm ending this day. Like,
yes,
I'm safe here, and you're not. The other two, actually, it comes up.
the attic, right? When she's looking around.
There's one in the original. I don't remember if it came over to this one or not. It's been a few days since I finished this one. I just don't remember. But there's one scene where I think it's Karen's character. In the original, I believe it's Karen's character. That she's in bed and Toshio is sitting on the bed. Like, she's in bed covered up. She wakes up and Toshio is sitting on the bed looking at her, almost like he's snickering, and then when she looks up, Kyoko is like bent over at the waist, looking like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, looking straight down at the character, and then the camera pans back and you realize she's just surrounded by these ghosts. It's really creepy.
I don't know.
I don't think it made it to this one.
I don't think it did. But I'll send you a text of what I'm talking about, because it's creepy. Anyway, go ahead. And so that sucks her out. Detectives are now, because the previous worker, who is taking care of Emma, is also gone.
Right. And now chronologically, she's or not chronologically, in the order of the film.
Movie plot?
Yeah. When you're watching the movie, the first scene of the movie is Peter jumping off his balcony.
Yeah.
And then we cut to this character, Yoko. We cut to her coming to the house to help. At this point, Matt and Jennifer are both gone already. Susan's gone already. We don't even know who they are. We haven't been introduced to them yet, but they're gone. Yoko comes to the house, and Emma, the mom, is there alone, all catatonic and dementia-ridden.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we meant earlier, where you watch one character commit suicide that you don't have any knowledge of. Then you cut to this character, Yoko, who we kind of meet a little bit. She's being assigned to this house. She shows up on a bike, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then she's gone within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
She's taken by ghosts that we have no idea who they are.
None.
So it's important really that we are going in this order.
Yeah. So the detectives are coming around, looking around. Now I don't remember, was Karen there first? Yes, Karen had to come before the detectives.
Yes, Yoko.
Yes,
Yoko was snatched on day one.
Yeah. And then Karen came the next day.
Yeah, and because she needed to go, and Alex is the boss at because it's a volunteer place. And Karen's just there to pick up some hours for school or whatever. So when Yoko never comes to work, we got to send somebody over there. So this is where they send Karen. When Karen gets there, Yoko's bike is still there. Yeah. So she's like, this is weird. And Karen doesn't have the issues right away.
Yeah, no.
She does discover Toshio, but Toshio's human form.
Right. Yoko's disappearance, I will say, is another part that traumatized me.
Where
as
she's
a child.
looking up into the attic and then it just comes at her.
Right. Because she hears a noise. Right. Okay. No problem. Looks up in the attic because what's up there? And it's black.
Yeah. And she's got just a lighter. She's around. Very hesitant. You could tell she's not one of those horror movie characters that are I'm an idiot and I'm going to go investigate. You can tell she's very tentative. I don't really want to do this, but I am the person in charge here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that she's also sucked up. So now flash forward, we've got Karen here. She is just kind of wandering around the house a little bit after taking care of Emma. Opens up, hears a cat meowing.
Yeah.
Opens up the wardrobe and finds Toshio duct taped up.
Yeah, he's taped into this closet.
Yeah.
But he's not physically taped into the closet.
Yeah.
But the closet's all taped up and he's sitting in there. But again, he looks like a boy. This isn't ghost looking Toshio. This is like Ghost has shape shifted into live looking Toshio.
Mm-hmm. Um. So then
This is
she runs back
right.
downstairs.
This is where
Yes.
this is where she gets a hold of her boss, and
Yeah.
like the police arrive and whatnot.
Yes. So Emma has been taken by the Grudge now.
Yeah.
She kind of came out of the walls again and took her. Karen is in like a severe state of shock, and we've got the detectives. They're walking around. They look up in the attic. They find Yoko's like jawbone, and they find Matt and Jennifer.
Yeah, their bodies
dead.
Yeah,
like, and they've looked like they've rotted there.
Well, they have. Like, who knows how long they've been up there? But
true.
Yeah.
Like in the movie, it's like, oh, you were just
right, and that's yesterday. Just it throws
but
it off.
Like, we don't know how long.
But then you think
there.
like, how has Emma survived without anybody taking care of her?
Right. So, we've got Alex. Alex goes back, who is the boss. And watches some of the film from work, and that's when no, he's leaving work. Yes. And Yoko is like walking, just like drenched, just walking. And this is where I feel like it's important that you notice that there was a jawbone in the attic. Because he's like, Yoko, what's wrong? Like, Yoko, are you there? What's going on? And Yoko turns around and like entire jaw is gone. Tongue is just hanging.
It's pretty grisly looking.
Yeah, it is. And he's just like, gotta go. Like, blast out of there. He's out. Yeah. So Kyoko starts haunting Karen. Right. You get a really good scene.
And the
she
shower.
Talks to the detectives. Yeah. And they explain like this, like this kind of is what happened, blah, blah. Like we researched their death and that's that.
Right.
So yeah, you get this. Oh, ew. I hate this scene. It's so gross. But she's taking a shower. Again, in the comfort of her home.
Yeah, her boyfriend. Yeah,
and
like, good chill. Take a shower.
Like as she's scrubbing her hair, just something pops out of her head, and it's like
another hand is up there, like in her scalp.
Ugh. And ew, it's just so gross because the hand is just like a rotted color at that as well.
But it's just so effective, and that's it is. That's what I really enjoy about this movie and its original is just the effectiveness of those scares. We're not throwing a chainsaw wielding maniac at you. We're just in your bed with you. Yes. We're in your shower with you. We're just
helping you wash your hair. So the next time you wash your hair, you're like, did I just feel something?
It's those intimate settings where you're like, this isn't where things should be scary.
Yeah.
But they are. And that's what's so effective about them.
So Karen lets her boyfriend Doug know, and she's like, listen, like I'm being haunted. She's going through looking at all of this curse and, just really researching it, goes and talks to the wife of the Professor Peter. Right. And, she just like, she realizes like Kyoko has been like almost like stalking Peter.
Yeah.
Because she's in literally every photo that he's got.
Karen sees that very quickly.
Yeah.
Which was a little obnoxious.
Yeah. True. And so flash forward to that night and the detective is like, I'm just gonna go burn that house down.
And Nakagawa, the detective, he's been very reluctant to dig into this case because he explains to Karen that like he's kind of aware of this curse. Remember, like he's native Japanese,
Yeah, and it killed all of
Yeah,
his colleagues that
he's
worked
had
on
a
the
couple of other colleagues investigate this, and they've
yeah.
all died. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay, fine. So this is where you were at.
Yeah, and so he heads to the house because this house was built by the Saki
Yeah,
whatever family.
yeah,
And so of course they were the only ones ever lived there, and they talk about that in the movie, and he's just like, I'm gonna burn it
yeah.
down
Let's
like
end this
that.
curse.
Yeah. Well, he gets there and he hears someone upstairs drowning.
Mm-hmm.
So he heads up, and it's the little boy. It's
Yeah,
Toshio
right.
drowning. So he grabs him. He pulls him out. He saves him. He brings him downstairs. He looks, and it's Kyoko.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. Just Kyoko. She takes him, right?
There's 4 levels to this. We've only talked about the 3. The cat,
Yeah.
the cat, Toshio, and Kyoko.
Yes.
This is where no, it's the dad.
Okay.
The dad is when Nakagawa's about to, like, he carries the gasoline, he's going to burn it down. He's killed by Tekio. He's killed by the dad.
Yes. And so Doug left a voicemail for Karen, and he's like, I'm going to that house. Like, if that's where you're, like, I'm heading there. So she rushes there, and finds him paralyzed.
Yeah, because he's frozen in shock.
Yeah. Yeah. Grabs him, trying to go. And it just gets really like, and I mean, the whole movie is intense in my opinion, but it gets extremely intense here because you're like, this is where you're SOL, baby.
Yes.
Like, you should have just left Doug there.
And this is another one of those infamous scenes where Kyoko comes crawling down the steps. Now they did cast like a real contortionist for this role, so they didn't have to use. So you just hear her joints creaking, and it's just so unnerving to see this coming at you, not quickly but slowly, knowing you can't do anything about it.
Nothing. Like, you can't move because you're also frozen in fear.
You're trying to haul your boyfriend out of there, so there's dead weight, and she's coming at you.
Yeah.
And it's really the first time Karen's been face to face with Kyoko. Like, when you get to Kyoko, you don't get past it. So for this, like, this is like, oh man, we're about to see this go down. It's just so uncomfortable because everything's moving so slowly, but is yet so intense.
Yeah, and Kyoko grabs Doug.
Right.
He dies.
Yeah, that pushes him over the edge. He's gone.
Yeah, he's done. And Kyoko's like closing in because at one point Karen looks down and Kyoko's in her arms where Doug was. And like, it's close, like, Karen's gonna die, and then Karen sees the gas can, lights the place on fire. She wakes up in a hospital.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, this is the only survivor of the fire. Like, come verify the body of Doug. Yeah. She goes, and long black under the body bag. Like, she doesn't even have to pull the sheet back yet. Long black hair and an arm falls down.
And she also finds out that the house didn't get burnt down.
Yeah. And like, the camera kind of pans to like the side of her where you can just see a little behind her, and there's Kyoko standing right behind her. And that's just where the movie goes.
Yeah, this grudge is not over.
Yeah, and I don't know, I love this movie.
It is. It's a very strong remake.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah, looking at that photo, no thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. it's good. We had talked last week, via text, like, about adding an extra little wrinkle. Before we get there, let's go ahead and grade this one.
I'm giving this one an A+. Like, this just has everything for me. This is what I would consider, this is a classic, quote unquote, for those listening, a classic, like, I grew up with these movies. Right. Like, these are the scary movies of my times. The jump scares, like, there's gore. I love these. So this is getting an A+ for me. Like I'm 28 and I was still at some point like sitting on my couch like watching this scrolling on Facebook like cuz I knew a jump scare was going to come and it just gets my heart racing.
I highly recommend, even if it's on your own, watch the original. Just
I probably won't sleep.
well, just knowing that you have like you get the gist of the story now, so you're not trying to discover that, but just for the extra layer of creep, because it's there, it's definitely there. They may have even let me scroll down a little bit. They may have even used where's Toshio?
They use some of the same cast. I know.
I'm thinking
like Kyoko's the same.
Toshio might be the same. Yeah, there he is. Let me see here if it's the same. Of course, his Wikipedia is just to the character, not the actor. But it might be the same. I don't know. But it's definitely worth the watch because there's several parts that were left out, just jump scary, creepy parts that were in the original that I can think of that just are left out in the remake. That are like, yeah, take it and amp it up another level or two, and you're like, whoa. So A+ for you. I'll give it an A-. I like this movie. I like the original. The non-linear storytelling was a little confusing, just because there is a story here, and I can respect why they chopped it up, but it wasn't like there was a mystery that they were like revealing to where had you made this movie literally the way that we just described it, still would have been a solid film. I mean, there weren't any secrets that were being, left out. And so, but so that's really about it. It just, it was a very strong remake, a very successful remake. I think it was a little slow at times, but and plus, just to be fair, I'm kind of a stickler on ghost movies. Like, I like them, but it's like, with a ghost, you could create an environment for them to do anything, and so when they're just kind of slow, it's like, oh, well, speed it up. Like, let's get to it. So, because it clocked right in at 91 minutes, but there are times where it felt quite a bit longer.
It did. Oh, yeah.
And I think just because of the jumping around. So, A- from me. Like I said, just a couple minutes ago, I was mentioning adding an extra wrinkle. I think it would be fun, especially if we don't really have like a lesson to learn from a movie like this. Like, what character do you think best embodies you? Like, who would you be? Which character is you?
Okay, so I could see myself honestly relating with a couple of these just because, like, Kyoko, like, I did have, like, the biggest crush on one of my teachers, and I wasn't, like, as childish as she was about it. Like, I wasn't writing, like, our names together or anything. But I don't know. I could relate with her just on, like, that very, like, basic level. But also I feel like Karen, just because I have lived abroad and she was studying abroad, and I guess I say lived, like I studied abroad as well, and just being thrown into like a place where you're so unfamiliar with, and just kind of like getting used to all of those basics and the cultures of everything.
Right.
I would relate to her just like on a little bit more of like a deeper level.
Fair. I would probably, the character in this movie that parallels me the most is probably Peter, the college professor. He wasn't doing anything wrong in this film.
No.
I've also been in a situation where I'm happily married only to find out that I have a student with a crush on me. And wasn't making really any effort to hide that crush, complimenting a lot. And it's like, and so I was just,
That's so awkward.
It is. It was.
I'll keep my kindergartners like, I love you, Miss Jones. You're so pretty. Like, I'll take that.
It was uncomfortable. And so, but he was faithful to his wife. Like, he didn't do anything, but I also would have been that route of, I wasn't neglecting that student either. I was more like, hey, let's get you past this because this isn't healthy. And so probably Peter, because even when he knew, like, he was still trying to be helpful in a situation.
Right. Yeah.
And then that, obviously the way he ended it was terrible, but that was just a lot of pressure. At least he died, but he died in a way that wasn't like stupid.
Right.
Like he wasn't heading into a haunted house when there were clear signs not to go there.
Yes.
And so I would say, he wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just going about his business. So I'd say probably Peter, the catalyst of this whole ordeal. So, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is The Grudge. It is Shuffle Week, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right, I am ready. I'm ready to shuffle. It's tough because I want to watch something new. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
So let me clock it by year.
Let's shuffle into. Okay, this reminds me of like on my playlist. Music, like I'll shuffle and it's like I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah.
Next, shuffle
Yeah.
Next, it's like let's just shuffle it until we find one we.
Fair enough. We've done that. We've done that before. All right. 969 horror movies to choose from. I hit shuffle. 1970s The Vampire Lovers. Pass.
Of course.
65. Pass. 89. Pass. Ooh. I love that. I love this movie.
It's an old one, but really
1979. I love this movie. I think you'll find it cheesy. I want to watch something newer. Let's pass.
Okay.
Pass. Screw it. I'm just gonna pick it. I know which one I want. I know which one I want to watch, and I'm like, do I want to wait till it's my movie? I'm like, forget it. It's my podcast. No, it's our podcast. There's a movie that came out this year called In a Violent Nature.
Okay.
2024 is In a Violent Nature. That is the movie we're gonna watch for this next coming week.
Unique and gruesome.
Yes, and this is a movie that, if I understand it correctly, it's like the movie follows the killer.
Okay.
If I from watching the trailer, that's the vibe I get. I don't know anything about it. That's the vibe I get, though, is this killer is resurrected from his grave and then just starts going. But the camera follows the killer. So there's times where he just walk. That's the vibe I get. Is
the point of view is just like from
his, like behind, like the camera's just following him. It's not even like his point of view. It's just we're following him, watching what he does. That's what I want to watch. And so I've heard it's very gruesome, which right up your alley.
Yes.
It'll be a new one. It's Canadian, so we won't have to worry about any subtitles. But that's what I want to watch. So we're going to watch 2024's In a Violent Nature, just released in the United States at the end of May.
Wow.
Came out near the end of January at a film festival. But we're going to watch In a Violent Nature for next week. So social media-wise, you guys can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Letterboxd as well, if you're into that thing. I need to get that updated because, shocker, I'm behind.
Hey, you said Letterboxd and not LinkedIn.
I did. So
I know you only did it a couple times, but we've only talked about it, a few times.
That's okay. So. Fair enough. But no, anything you want to throw in before we get out of here?
If you are a teacher, please enjoy the last half of, summer break.
You got a month left.
Yeah, because I feel like once August hits, everyone's in teacher mode. So enjoy that. Stay cool and drop down some movies if you have some.
Yeah, definitely let us know in the comments below. We finally got through The Grudge, In a Violent Nature for next week. I'm excited about this one. I'm looking forward to this one. I think I'll talk my wife into watching this one with me. I mean, she's open anyway, but it's like some nights it's late and
I probably won't talk my husband into watching this one with me because he left the room when I turned The Grudge on.
Ooh, poor guy.
Yeah, he's like, nope. Got up and left. I was like, Okay,
You know what? I
bye.
bet he wouldn't nope it too much if you pulled the whole "I'm under your bed sheet" trick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm like, exactly.
all right. Well, I will talk to you later, and we'll get back on board here soon to cover In a Violent Nature.
All
All right.
right.
So we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.